The U.S. adding a higher than expected 311,000 new jobs last month, but that new report is getting some mixed reaction both in Washington and on Wall Street. Joining us live with more on this now is our Washington correspondent Peter Zampa. And Peter, what is the White House saying about this news?
Yeah, Rosanna, obviously this is a positive day for the White House because anytime you're adding jobs to this economy, it's a good thing. They like to show this off as a sign that this economy is strong coming out of the pandemic. They've been saying this for months now. They say inflation is on the way down. There's no recession in sight. That being said, you mentioned mixed reaction. Some folks may say that this still signals that this economy is a little bit too hot. And given where inflation is, we know the Federal Reserve wants to slow the economy down a little bit to bring inflation down further to that 2% level. So when they go to raise interest rates in a couple of weeks in March, a lot of folks were expecting a quarter point, but there is that indication that it may have to double to further slow down this economy. And this jobs report today still shows the economy is strong, maybe a little bit too strong for some.
There's a lot of people watching that, and the House passed legislation that could help unseal information regarding the origins of COVID. What does this bill do?
First of all, we should note that this passed in a unanimous fashion in both chambers, a pretty rare thing. Now it heads to the president's desk. It's unclear if the president will sign it because this asks the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to unseal information relating to the lab leak, to the COVID origins, which could include a lab leak in Wuhan, China. That is what has been going around lately, and that's why all these lawmakers want to get their hands on the information themselves to come to their own conclusions, because some agencies say with low confidence it did leak from a lab, others say it was more natural than that. These lawmakers are finally saying, we want to know for ourselves, give us that information, unseal these documents.
The House Freedom Caucus is demanding concessions to avoid the debt limit crisis. What were they saying today?
Yeah, they finally laid out their hostage demands, and we've sort of seen this coming for a while. Ever since we knew we were going to be coming to this debt limit head, conservatives in Congress have been saying we will not vote to raise this debt limit one more time without a conversation about cutting spending. Well, they laid that out today, and they want to gut a lot of President Biden's priorities, things like his climate agenda, welfare programs, student loan bailouts, his IRS funding, and more. They really want an across-the-board government cut to spending. And of course, this is being met with reluctance from President Biden. He says this is not a place to start negotiating from. However, the Freedom Caucus in the House of Representatives has enough votes to tank this debt limit increase if they want. So someone is going to have to come off a ledge before this country defaults later this summer.
Now, today, Democratic leaders discussed the upcoming Equal Pay Day. What was their message?
Well, their message is that we're still not there yet, and that women are still making pennies on the dollar to men, including especially women of color. It also gave them a chance to reintroduce, to reinvigorate this legislation they're pushing, the Paycheck Fairness Act. Now, it passed through the last House of Representatives, but we should note Democrats controlled that House of Representatives. They no longer have that power. Only one Republican signed on to this legislation last time. It doesn't look like it will pass through this Republican-controlled House, but really it takes a deep dive into the root causes of this issue. It gets companies on board with training. It studies the issue, a lot of other things, trying to close this wage gap.
Peter, GOP presidential hopefuls descended on Iowa today. What was the purpose of their visit?
Well, the purpose, Rosanna, is to get 2024 started early. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, has still not announced, but I think everyone on earth who's been paying attention knows that he plans to run for president in 2024. He's there making speeches, laying down that groundwork. Nikki Haley, governor of South Carolina, former governor of South Carolina, I should say, who has announced she's there as well, talking to people on the ground, trying to form those coalitions in this state. And it's a small state, but as we all know, it's an important state. It is the first in the nation for Republicans in 2024. They all want to be there early and often, and I think we can expect them all to be there a lot more. Donald Trump going to the state next week, as is Mike Pence. All the big names are flowing in.
Speaking of Trump, Trump has been asked to testify before a grand jury investigating whether hush money was sent on his behalf in 2016. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, well, this is from a legal expert's standpoint. What we've heard is that it's an indication that this grand jury is expecting to lay down an indictment soon. So inviting him to speak his piece, it's unclear if he will. He lashed out last night on his social media site, Truth Social, is saying that this is just another witch hunt. It's democratically controlled. It's just Democrats trying to put him behind bars or make him pay ahead of the 2024 election. However, that is one of the interesting things here, is that we could have a presidential candidate, a former president, running for president again while indicted. And this is not the only indictment that could come down between now and next year.
Our Washington correspondent, Peter Zampa, thank you so much for keeping us up to date on what is happening in our nation's capital.